Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard. And we are here right before the season. Preseason action actually is going on right now. But yeah, a little bit of Duck news. I guess some guy named Mason McTavish is finally signed by Anaheim. So we will dive into that a little bit. And also kind of the implications for the team next season. There's a bunch of RFAs and UFAs coming up there. So we're going to talk about that. There was a Zegras interview that he did with Greg Wisniewski. We're going to talk about that. Kind of an interesting thing. Give some predictions on the Western Conference. We've got tons of fan questions to get to, some league news to get to, so plenty of stuff. But Eddie, how are you doing? What's going on before we dive into Mason McTavish and all the rest of the Ducks?
I'm doing fine. Just getting through the summer. I'm actually excited that it's cooling down a little bit. Even I went to Arizona this past weekend, and it wasn't as hot when I went there, so that was a positive. I'm just glad that I can get over this, I guess, the summer blues, I'll call it, and we'll dive deeper into that when we talk about Zegras' interview. But I'm doing fine. I'm getting ready for my trip. I know the question that we always we ask, Mike, but it's going to surprise everybody. I'm actually dry. I actually have water. I have no alcohol. And it's not by choice or anything. It's just I just didn't have time to run to the liquor store to get a couple shooters or something for this show. So I'm kind of stuck with water now.
Yeah, I'm doing my Red Bull vodka just to kind of get started up. Kind of had a busy day, busy week. It's a lot of work lately, but I do want to laugh a little bit and tell a little bit of a story as we dive into this. But when the Mason McTavish news broke out, as some of you know, before the NHL season starts, my better half's birthday is the end of September, so we usually go somewhere. So we also went to Arizona. Eddie, you and I just kind of missed each other. And I was out on the river all day on that Saturday when the news broke. And I cracked up because in the morning, Pierre LeBrun said, oh, yeah, it's a status quo. It could change with a phone call. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever. I go out to the river at like 8 in the morning. I get back, and it's sometime between 3 and 4, and there's no reception out there, nothing. So by the time I get back, we kind of drive out away from the river. The phone starts exploding. Eddie was on it. He did all the posts with the news, thank God, because I was not there. It's usually one of us two that's posting stuff, but I try to be on it. But this one time, I'm out in the river with no reception, and the McTavish news broke, and I thought it was funny because especially after Pierre's comments. I thought, oh, okay, it's probably going to be, a little bit longer, but the deal got done. 6 years, $7 million. Kind of what Eddie and I had talked about. We had thought, hey, we had heard rumblings, that they were trying for a 5-year deal. Then McTavish was pushing for a 7 or 8 year deal from a couple different reports out there that were pushing that. And we said, hey, let's do 6. And I think I said 6 at 6.5 or 7 would be good, and that's what they ended up doing. And I know you thought along the same line, so I'm happy about the deal. I think it's the right amount. It got done. I'm glad with that. But I still not happy that it took this long. Eddie was right on our bet. We got more bets too coming up later on that we're going to talk about in the show. But he won this one. I thought it would happen, right before training camp or maybe the day of or right around the beginning. Eddie, you said no, it wasn't going to happen. It was going to be after training camp started, which it did. Thank God it did happen before the season. So for me, I'm glad it's done. I think it's a fair deal. Now we can move on, focus on the season. But I'm still not happy that it dragged out. I feel like this could have been done back in July, August at the latest. Seems like a no-brainer, this amount that happened. But what are your thoughts, Eddie? You covered it, thank God, because like I said, I had no reception. But when the news broke, did you like the deal? Did you think it was fair? What was your take once that news broke?
I think it was perfect. I think I like the deal. He's well worth that amount. Especially, I think what screwed it up too with the whole thing was that Chicago guy Nazar signing for the amount that he did, with the limited experience he had and the points. I think McTavish is 10 times better of a player than he is. So I think that contract kind of diluted in the mind of our GM. But it's a fair deal. But like you said, it should have got done sooner. I don't know who is the more stubborn one. Which obviously McTavish's agent, that's his job to be stubborn. He wants to get the most money for his client. We have to take into consideration too that the state tax that California imposes, also the agent fees and whatever other fees that go along with signing a contract. I just learned too, Mike, that when McTavish goes and plays for other cities, different teams, he has to pay individual taxes for those whatever states he's in. Or I'm not sure if he pays the taxes for Canada, so it kind of differs that way too. Some states are higher state tax than others, so all that factors in. But I like the deal. I think it's good. It was a good sign too, Mike, when we were at the golf tournament that he was there. So that was a big positive sign that him showing up to an event like that just proves that he wants to be there and he wants to move forward with the Ducks. So that was good to see that. I know we didn't really poke around about his signing and everything about that, and we did speak to some of the players regarding that, but we'll just keep that really between us and the players, the conversations that we have with them. But I'm glad it worked out. I think the contract's really great, and now we can move forward. He'll probably be a couple weeks behind, but he's a professional athlete. He's been training all throughout the summer. I'm assuming he went and skated with the Ottawa 67. So it's going to just take maybe a little bit to get up to speed with Coach Q's, I guess, his coaching style and his play he wants to do. But I think, no doubt in my mind, he'll work out perfectly. The cap's going up. This contract will be great. And I think, he's probably primed to be pretty much the next captain or in line to be a predominant player with the Ducks. So I like it. It's perfect, and now we can get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point, too. We did talk to a bunch of the players at the annual charity golf event that we do. Eddie was able to finally make it. We always joke because I tell him last minute, not on purpose, but I just kind of forget. But
he does it on
Eddie
purpose.
Was able to go
you do it on purpose, so I can't make it.
So you were able to go. Some people thought you were Vertrano's twin brother, which we laughed about and stuff. But yeah, we talked to the players, and like Eddie said, I'm not going to give away any specific comments that they said. You can always DM me if you want some kind of news or something about it. But the overall feeling was really positive with the team. They did feel like it would happen sooner or later. So that was, I want to say that was just a week before training camp. So it was a pretty positive vibe amongst the team overall. They also were really, really happy with Coach Q. So everything was very, very good. Nothing negative at all. And yeah, they just talked a little bit about the business of the players and kind of how these contracts work out. And, what are you looking for in a player? Just generally, are you trying to get a bridge deal and then, get yourself that bigger deal later on? Or are you just trying to get the biggest deal with the biggest amount of money? There's kind of some logic behind that and what you're trying to do and where your loyalties lie and everything like that. This is nothing specific to McTavish. This is just generally speaking. So I just want to preface that. So it had nothing to do with his situation, but some of the players did talk about just the feeling amongst players when they're making negotiations. Are they trying the short game or the long game? So it's just kind of something that gets factored in, not always, but sometimes. So, but yeah, overall good feeling with the team. They're really happy. We saw a lot of the guys there. The fact that McTavish was there, we had a good feeling too. We didn't know when. Obviously, I kind of read it as a better feeling. Like I said, again, I was a little bit off. He ended up getting signed after training camp. But yeah, good overall, and I was ecstatic too. I was happy that this was done because I was just tired of all the rumors and everything. That's why I posted a couple different photos saying, hey, I did a GIF and photos where you wake up and there's your mood when he's signed, and we don't have to listen to these crazy ass rumors because apparently the Montreal Canadian fans, not all of them, but a decent amount apparently thought that McTavish was going to end up in Montreal, but I don't know where they were getting that from. I don't know if they're smoking crack or what, but yeah, that wasn't going to happen. All the signs indicated that he was going to stay in Anaheim. It was just a question of when. So good to see it done. And it kind of, bleeds into the thing of what's to come with this team, because what worries me about this, though, is I don't like this strategy. We saw this with Zegras. We saw this with Drysdale. We talked about it. Thank God it wasn't a bridge deal, because that would have concerned me and meant, is there a possibility of future trade, which there isn't. There always is a possibility, but it seems less likely, right? Because he signed this deal. He's also got a modified no trade clause too in the last 2 years of this deal as well. So, I'm happy with that. But then the question is and Verbeek addressed this to the media in an interview, and Elliot Freeman talked about it on one of his recent 32 Thoughts podcasts. The Ducks have 5 big RFAs next season. In the summertime, Carlson, Gauthier, Lacombe, Minchukov, and Zellweger, and then several UFAs. So they talked about it, Verbeek and Freeman, about trying to address some of these during the season instead of the summer. And that's really what I want to see, what's going to happen now after this, because even Verbeek admitted, hey, trying to deal with 5 RFAs at one time is a pain. We saw how long it took with just one with, McTavish. So I really want to see this strategy. I thought it was interesting, too. Freeman talked about Carlson, Gauthier, and Lacombe, saying how they could command a similar AAV of $7 million, like McTavish, depending on the term. So what are your thoughts on that, Eddie? As now McTavish is done, do you think that hopefully some of these RFAs maybe get done during the season? And what do you think about the monetary value? Do you think Carlson, Gauthier, Lacombe warrant a $7 million AAV like McTavish?
Yeah, I want to just go backwards a little bit. I do want to give a shout out to you, Mike, and Eric for the invitation to that golf tournament. It was fun. We had a good time taking shots at 7 in.the morning. It's always a good thing. That's when things start off like that. Our little tent mate too was the people from Violent Gentlemen. The two girls running it. One of them was Danielle. She was going to be on the show today, but schedules conflicted. So on the next show, we're going to bring her on and kind of dive deeper more on the fun that we had over there. Shout out to the other 3 girls too that were working in that area. I don't want to throw out their names. I didn't ask permission to give them a shout out by name, but shout out to them too. But Mike, that was a fun experience. So thank you again. Next time we have to definitely bring our equipment, start recording some stuff, and take some more video and post that. It was just a good experience. Got to talk to a lot of the players. I got the approval from Carlson on one of my tattoos. He has a similar Joker tattoo. We talked to Ryan Palin's brother. Got to meet him. Really cool guy. And then another shout out to an old school legend, Adam Burish. Yeah, he played. He was talking about his Stanley Cups, talking about where he played for the Bruins. Coincidentally, I knew one of the players that he played with, so that was kind of a cool thing. But he walked out of his golf cart very lit, holding two cocktails already. So that was getting the fun started. But yeah, I'm looking forward to dive deeper on that golf tournament when we have Danielle on the show, and we can all 3 just shoot the shit and talk about all the experience we had on that. But thank you again for the invite.
Yeah, of course, man. It was a blast. It's something that, luckily, my buddy Eric, he's the one that's hooked us up with it, and we've been doing it for several years. So, and the more important thing is it's for a good cause as well. So they raise a lot of money. We get a lot of people to sign up to do the foursomes and things like that on the golf course, and it raises money for a great cause. So that's the best part of it. It's kind of a win-win for everybody. And like you said, we get to hang out with some of the players, and we get to usually meet some other nice, interesting people as well. So fun time all the way around.
Oh, yeah. So basically on your question too, Mike, I think it's really important that Verbeek focuses on getting these contracts done. Obviously, you don't want to rush it, and you don't want to overly push things throughout the season, because the main focus right now on the Ducks is winning games, getting used to the new system. You don't want the added pressure on these players that are pretty much primed to have a breakout season, have that extra weight on their shoulders about, oh, well, how is this contract? Oh, he's not offering me this much. I don't feel valued. You don't want to throw into that mix right there. I think Tomo_WB, one of the fan questions, had a good question about contracts amount around the league and how it's going to impact the Ducks. I think, like I mentioned before with the McTavish one, when Chicago signed that I think he had that Nazar kid only has like under 30 NHL games. He got that almost $7 million contract extension. I think that was kind of crazy. I think a lot of the league, except the Chicago fans, thought that was outrageous, especially given the small sample size. But I think contracts like that affected Kaprizov. We all know he signed that, I guess, the record-breaking NHL contract The 17, I think it was like $136 million, $17 million AAV. That's just insane. He put up 52 points last season, dealing with injuries a couple seasons, or for the last 2 seasons. He did have that 102 point season. He's a hell of a player. He's a freaking superstar. But that kind of money, it's just, you look at that kind of contract, and if you have Carlson light it up, you have Cutter go light it up, you have Lacombe, which broke out last season, and I think he's going to break out this season even more. I really think he has a legitimate chance of breaking the lineup for Team USA. All that factors in. What is he going to get? You have Luke Hughes that just signed that $9 million contract, or $9 million AAV contract extension too, and I think Lacombe's a better player than Hughes from New Jersey. But yeah, I think the biggest priority is to try to get these done, chisel at it the best you can, but not affect the players' performance or not give them more, outside responsibility. That's what the agent's for, but I'm pretty sure they have to go back and forth. But I think for the first month or 2, let's just focus on getting a rhythm, getting used to the new system, and playing hockey and winning games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of this, if it's going to be talked about, it's going to be later on. We had Yohei, it's Chris. He also brought that, the cap and what's going on next season. He talked about, Zellweger or Minchukov, if they get moved. Remember, there were some rumors of that last season. They talked a little bit about the Ducks getting phone calls on them during the summer. Verbeek saying no. Verbeek also did talk about, the rising cap, the cap space, and he did talk about having options at the trade deadline. So I am curious, getting way ahead of ourselves right now, but just because we've had some of these questions and whatnot, that's why we're kind of addressing it, and some of this has been brought up in some of the questions to the media with Verbeek. But I don't see any of that right now. It's hard to tell. We've also got, the preseason's not quite done yet. You still got some guys up there. Got to see how they do. Dostal, has been day to day. He was out, missed a couple practices, but he's been back practicing, so that's a good sign. But I'd wait. It's too early. I don't see anybody like right now off the bat getting moved. I think, like Eddie said, they've got to get used to Coach Q, who, by the way, we also met and talked to at the golf event, who is freaking awesome. Great dude. Had a great conversation with him. So I think that's the big thing for the Ducks now, is getting down the systems and figuring out what they need to do. The practices have been pretty crazy. You've seen them doing a lot of these one-on-one battle drills, which is good. A lot of focus on puck possession and going into the dirty areas, which I think has been key. I don't take into account any of these preseason games. I know a lot of people were sitting there and analyzing them and diving into them. I don't really dive into them and look at them a whole lot because they're not the actual lineup. And some of these games they played, like they played the Baby Sharks earlier. They had a whole team of AHL people, so I don't read too much into the team play. Looking at the individual play, definitely you can see some stuff in there, especially with some of the newer guys coming up. But I am excited for the season and to see how this team will do, and that really goes into one other question too. And we, I guess we always get this because the Ducks have not made the playoffs since 2018. But the question about, can the Ducks make the playoffs, and what do they need to do to get in the playoffs? And I think with the team that they've got now, obviously they got to make a couple more cuts and finalize this roster down. But I think a lot of it's going to come down to the systems. You've already seen a shift in the defense. Coach Q is talking about a different style there defensively, trying to adjust things that way, going into the dirty areas a little bit more. Obviously the special teams has got to pick up for sure. We've known that that's been a problem. Hence why Kreider was brought in, Granlund too, and see how that works out. So I think a lot of it's really going to depend on the beginning of the season. I think these first 10 to 20 games is where we're going to have to see how this works out and see if the systems that Coach Q can put in place will get the Ducks going where they need to be. So to me, I lean more on the coaching because it got completely overhauled. Almost like 90% of the coaching staff was redone. So that's what I look at a lot, and then go from there. If they follow the systems, they improve and do better with that. I think they have a good chance. We'll talk a little bit later about the Central and Pacific and how we think things will shake out. But I like what I'm seeing so far, Eddie, and I know it's early, but I think if the Ducks have a chance this year, they may be able to do it, and coaching might be the thing that gets them there.
Yeah, you know what? It was a really good conversation with Coach Q. Like, he was just so kind of in tune and asking. He asked a lot of questions on us too, and he was really curious about our podcast and asking those questions. So that was kind of cool to see. And much respect for him. Yeah, just as a head coach, I had to take my glasses off too, but yeah, you just got a different energy with this team. With Coach Q speaking, talking to the players about this upcoming season, you just had a different vibe about them, about coming in the season. So I think we can make the playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen this season. I'm still shot on that. I know I've been up and down. I just, like I said, they're skating uphill right now, and that's no fault to them. They have a lot of change that happened in such short of time in the last few seasons, and now they have to get used to something. I mean, there's some things you can take away from the preseason. I know I believe they were 19 straight on the penalty kill without allowing a goal until the other night they allowed a goal. Things like that, those small things. It's going to get better with time. I think Coach Q can bring us back to the Stanley Cup playoffs or the finals. With his coaching staff, he's a winner. He knows how to adjust on the fly. He knows how to adapt to the variable changes, and we can kind of rely on that. And he can be that. I guess he can have that fluctuation between being a hard ass and knowing his players and what really works with them. Because some players need that kick in the ass. Some players kind of need to be coddled a little bit, if that's the word. And I think he can find that happy balance between his team and get them to where they need to be and kind of thrust them forward. I did want to mention too that Zally, I don't know if you noticed, Mike, when we met him, he looked like he bulked up a little bit more. So I'm expecting a big season out of him too. So it's just going to be fun come next season. Oh yeah, speaking of, I can just throw this in there. Speaking of me mentioning Zally bucking up, if you're looking for any nutritionists, any stimulants, any fat burning stuff, go ahead and go up to Bucked Up. Use DucksNPucks 93 for a discount code. Figure that'd be a best place to throw that ad read in.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Yeah, he got jacked up. When we saw him, I was like, man, Zellweger's been working out. He definitely looked pretty put up there. So he's been hitting the gym pretty hard this summertime. He's looking pretty good. So yeah, I'm looking to see what he can do on the blue line for the Ducks. And yeah, I mean, part of this, it also ties into this other thing that came up recently. But with Coach Q and the interaction with the players, we've seen the negative side of that, right, with Coach Cronin. And there was an interview recently with Zegras, with Greg Wisniewski talking about this. And I thought it was interesting because you tied into a lot of stuff into this, really. I mean, this interview is kind of... And the reactions by you guys are kind of crazy, too. I ended up posting this on all different platforms. On X, everybody was kind of quiet on there, surprisingly, but on Facebook and Instagram, a lot of you guys were going kind of nuts on this, and it was all over the place. I was surprised, but Zegras talked about his development, how he had a hard time playing wing. He was trying to do things that Cronin asked him to do. It didn't work out, and there was, a relief, talking to the players again, not going to go into specifics, but a lot of the players were super happy that Coach Q is now there, and they felt, that there were some things that just weren't quite right under Cronin. I'm not going to go into specifics, but I thought it was interesting with this interview with Zegras that was given out and him talking about it. He's already been traded, and just the struggles that he had. And I felt like the team failed him somewhat with Cronin there, but I also kind of feel like he failed himself too a little bit. I don't know. It seems like Zegras can't really deal with adversity that well. That's kind of what I read in that article too. Is I know a lot of people are pointing the finger at Cronin, and I totally get it. There's no dismissing that at all, but. I try to look at this both sides. So, you got to have both working at it. And that's kind of what I'm thinking why this team can be better and push over the edge is, a good coach knows how to work with the players and work with their strengths. Obviously, Cronin worked on Zegras and his defensive game and tried to improve that. And that was a little bit of a sticking point that you could have read in that article that Zegras was talking about. But I think that's the thing that's going to be different here is I think Q knows how to get the best out of his players. And I think that's what's going to be a huge difference for this team. Like you said, Eddie, they don't make the playoffs, but I'm expecting the play to be a lot more competitive and a lot better this season, getting things going forward with him and the rest of the coaching staff. But it was just kind of an interesting interview on there, and it just happened recently. So there's a lot in there to digest. I really suggest you go in there and read it. Don't just read some of the quotes that are posted out there. Read the whole thing. It's pretty interesting. But what are your thoughts on that interview, or Cronin and Coach Q and the differences and whatnot?
I think he was just bitching a little bit more. I think it was more just poor me and kind of making excuses and not really accepting responsibility. I get it. I get the seasonal depression. I get, for some reason, I know it's opposite of what other people do, but I get severely depressed during the summer. I kind of withdraw. I want to be alone. My drinking just increases. I don't know. When it's bright and sunny outside, I just feel so weak and tired and depressed. But on the other hand, when it's winter, gloomy or raining, I'm more alive. I'm more active. Drinking goes down significantly less. I feel more alive and more in a natural environment, if that makes sense. So I understand that point about it, but to sit there and be bitching because you're not playing center, you're not big enough to play center, you're gonna get run over by certain people. It's just like, okay, the trade happened. Maybe you're salty about it, but this is where that key word professional comes before athlete. You have to have that professional tie. Like, I love Zegras. He was one of my top players I liked. But to see that interview, it's like, dude, it's done and over with. You didn't see Jamie Drysdale go and kind of cry and complain. It's tough luck. Like, you being a professional athlete, making the money that you make, you have to adapt to those changes. You have to adapt to a new GM. You have to adapt to a new coach. You have to adapt on the fly. When you're on the ice, things happen in an instant. You have to learn how to kind of. You have to check your emotions on and off the ice too. Like, that's what I'm getting at. And I think that interview was it wasn't needed. Like, you just didn't have to go and kind of throw the Ducks under the bus and cry about that, especially at that. Now, if it doesn't work out in Philadelphia, then obviously it wasn't the Ducks' problem. But I get where the Ducks were coming from when the trade happened. They wanted someone that can be more of a playoff threat like Paling can. He can throw him on that line. He can go ahead and throw his body around, get in those gritty areas, do the stuff that we haven't seen Zegras do. We saw a little bit getting better at it, but now we bring in someone that's kind of geared and can bring that to the Ducks, and that's happy to be here. And when I asked him too about the Philly winters, he was just glad that he's in Southern California. He doesn't have to go through the Philly winters. So that was kind of funny that I kind of asked him that, not knowing this whole interview with Zegras was going to come out, but. It's done and over with, and all we can do is look forward, and hopefully Zegras has a good season. I'm still wishing the best for him, and hopefully it works out. But things like that I guess he's still young, so he'll kind of learn and grow into that. Like, I don't think it's something that Getzlaf would have done if he got traded or things like that. I don't think that would have came out with someone like that. But I guess the new generation likes to have everyone see their feelings and has to be posted it and kind of much air your dirty laundry out, but I still wish him the best.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. I just, after reading the whole interview or article or whatever, I'm with you, Eddie. I was just kind of like, I don't really know why you would have done that. And I mean, the trade's over with. You go to the other team and you do what you got to do. I'm still rooting for him, of course. I still wish the best for him. But yeah, I felt the same way that you did. At first I read it, and I was a little annoyed because of the whole Cronin thing, which that's over and done with. But then at the same time, I felt like you did too. I'm like, okay, you're kind of airing out the dirty laundry right here. I did think the part about the seasonal depression was interesting to me because I'm the other side of that, and we were talking about that in our group chat. I'm the one that if I had to go live somewhere and it snowed for 2-3 months, I would lose my mind. So I'm the other way around. I don't like all the changes. I like California because we basically have like 2 seasons, like spring and summer. That's pretty much what we have, right? We don't really have a fall and a winter out here. But I get the other side of it. Like you've mentioned, Eddie. I know people that are kind of in that way too. But I've never, I guess, heard that kind of term. So that was kind of interesting to me to read in the article of what was going on. But I also think the other part of it too, like if you're going to add a third side to it, is the injuries too that affected his play. So you had the whole battle of him playing center and wing, offense versus defense with Cronin and all that other stuff going on. And then, being in the different environment and all that, and then on top of that, you had the injuries, which didn't help as well. Because, under Akins in the beginning, he was doing, pretty decent the first 2 seasons, right? Then under Cronin, not so much, and the injuries didn't help. So, not really going to beat a dead horse on that one, though. You can read the article and go in depth and see what you want. We got all kinds of mixed opinions from you guys on social media. I was surprised. There were a lot of people, on both sides. Very, very interesting. So, but yeah, with that, I mean, we'll kind of dive into a little bit more on the Ducks. We've got some things that, we talked about the playoffs a little bit. We'll talk about some more stuff with the team, kind of what we think, how they'll do in the division, how we think players will do. We'll dive into a lot of that, and we'll dive into some league news. Eddie already mentioned Kaprizov and that crazy deal. But before we do that, I will get to our sponsor, which will tie into some of these bets that Eddie's actually been doing better at these bets than I have. But, we do have DraftKings as one of our sponsors. Football is back, and so is your shot at big wins with DraftKings Pick 6, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Your game day instincts can score you real money fast. Here's the play. Just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats from the breakout rookies to elite quarterbacks and unlock the upside every snap brings. This season, play your player instincts. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now. Use the code THPN. That's code THPN. Play just $5 to get $50 in Pick 6 bonus picks. Make the call. Ride the upside. In partnership with DraftKings Pick 6, the crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-7897-777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 is not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 picks that expire in 14 days. Limited offer. See times at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. All right, boom, knock that out. All right, so we got a lot of these bets, Eddie, and we were talking about this. You already, got the one on when McTavish is going to sign, but we talked about playoffs. So I already said yes, or kind of a weak yes, I guess. You said no. What about some of these other ones? We were talking about, season openers, opening night parlays, things like that. What are your takes on some of these bets that people should look at as the season gets underway?
Well, yeah, so even though I mentioned that I don't think the Ducks are going to make the playoffs, on the offhand, they do. I put a small little bet the Ducks winning the Pacific Division. So it was a pretty decent payout. I have a couple parlays going on. I have one for opening night. The first 3 games that are played, I have Chicago, Pittsburgh, and Colorado. It was one of the pre-parlays that were on there. I didn't pick them. That's a pretty much big, significant one that I'm going to go to a bar and go and watch that if 2 of my 3 hit in the day. But that's a big one. I do have another 3-pick parlay that the Sabres, Red Wings, and Ducks all win their season openers. So that's another fun one I can do. And like I said, I'm just betting these for fun. Another one, too, when Ovechkin scores his 900 career goal, I took a bet saying he would score against Columbus. He scored his first goal against Columbus, so it'd be fitting that he scores his 900th against Columbus. And then I do a small little $10 bet. Will pretty much pay a lot. That if this is not going to happen, I doubt it. But if Florida beats the Edmonton Oilers again in this year's Stanley Cup final, so those are my little DraftKings bets that I did when I was in Arizona over the weekend. I did put some things together too, Mike, that I want to just kind of say, we'll just start off with this. The Ducks' record was 35, 37, and 10 last season with 80 points, 6 in the Pacific Division. So do you bet over or under 80 points this season for the Ducks?
That's a good one. I say over.
You know what? I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying over. I want to say there'll be 12 to 15 points over for this season.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think they'll be. I think they'll definitely be over. And this ties into a couple other things too. We're talking about who's going to be the team leaders and how they're going to do in the division and whatnot. I guess we can kind of go down some of these and see what we think. Like who do we think will have the most goals, assists, and points? So I guess with that. What are you thinking, Eddie? Goals, assists, and points. You have one player in mind, 2, 3. Who do you think will be in the tops of those three categories.
I think for goals, I'm going to throw Kreider out there. I think he can be used in any situation too. I think he's going to be a factor in the power play. I think the way the power play is going to be ran differently. I think the Ducks are really going to go kind of balls out to kind of improve throughout the seasons and get a better power play. And he can score those goals. I think him getting a different start, a fresh start, and over here in Anaheim, I think it's going to pay dividends. He's a big body. He can get in front of that net. You're not really going to move him. He's a big guy. Like, he's a really big guy too. So I don't know. I just think that it's going to work out and pay dividends for bringing someone like Kreider in here. And I think he's going to lead the Ducks in goals this season. As far as assists and points, I have one player that I'm going to say for both of them. I think Carlson. I think Carlson's really gonna blossom out and be that top player. It's gonna be. I honestly think he's gonna outperform Connor Bedard and Fintali this season. I really think so. I think what we've seen from him and what he can bring, it's just gonna be a significant breakout season. And I think he's gonna be in line for some serious bucks. But I think he'll lead the Ducks in assists and points this season.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, you got some good ones in there. I think Kreider, yeah, he definitely could be the one that could lead the team in goals for sure. You remember we had a lot of guys last year that were right around the 20 goal mark. So I think he's the one that it could definitely push over there. Last year, Terry had the most assists, but not really far behind him was Strome and Lacombe. I actually think Lacombe might be one of the ones that could bust out and have the most assists, to be honest. I could see him being one in there. In terms of points, I'm looking at McTavish. I think McTavish was second last year in overall points. I'm thinking he could be there. So, that's what I'm kind of looking at right now, just throwing out some names kind of based upon what we've been seeing. But I think your choices are good, too. That's why I'm excited about this. I think we're going to have a team that's going to put up some points and assists, which, obviously is what we need to do more of. It's been an issue with the offense the last couple of years, especially special teams. So I like that. We talked about breakout player 2 for this year. I'm looking at it. I know we talked about Lacombe, but he already kind of broke it out last year. I mean, obviously he could bust it out even more this year. But I think I'm looking at, if he's with the team the whole time, I'd look at Colangelo. Could be one, I think. Could be a breakout player or also most improved player. I know we got kind of those two categories on there. I kind of going with him could be one or both of those. What are you thinking? Who would be a breakout player or maybe most improved player this year?
That was a good pick that you made. I think he's going to benefit just crashing the net and getting into those dirty areas and kind of forcing his way to earn those net front and present battles and getting those trash goals, what they like to be called. We saw a really good sample size from him last season, so I think that's a pretty good player that you picked. For breakout player, I want to say, and it's kind of a toss-up between Minty and Zelli, I think with the more an established lineup and them not just sitting every other game, or if they get some consistency going in the lineup, I think one or both of them will have a breakout season. It's hard to pinpoint one because they're both talented players, but I would say either one of them. For the most improved, and I've noticed this in the preseason, I think Gudas has kind of stepped up his game, and he's been he has a little to his skating. He's bringing that little nastiness back. I saw a little bit watching few of the preseason games. I think that he's going to be the most improved season from last season. If I have to pick anyone for that category, it's kind of see him getting back to that old ways, and I don't know. I liked what I've seen from him so far, and he did score a goal too, so that's pretty. He's not known for those scoring goals, but that was pretty good to see him get a goal. Funny story too, at the golf tournament, I was getting a drink at one of the other holes, and then he was just getting his drink. He walked by and he tells the bartender, "Hey, that Russian right there is getting our tab." I don't know why he thought it was Russian, but that was a kind of funny story. But yeah, that's my pick. And then I had another category too, Mike. So you can we can kind of talk about this, the MVP of this season, and I think Lacombe's gonna take that category. I think I think he's gonna make Team USA. I think he's gonna kind of crush the numbers he had last season. He's gonna put up even more numbers this season. I think he'll be the team's MVP.
I like that too. I like Lacombe too. I would go with that too. And your Gudas thing is funny because there's a couple of things about Gudas I can mention. One is we did talk to Gudas about how he was doing right after he did his rehab. He says he felt 100%. He's good to go and everything. And then it was funny. He said that he did have knee surgery, and the knee surgery was over 10 years ago. So it was just kind of funny talking to him about that because I can talk about it because it was old. It's old news, But he's like, no, I didn't need knee surgery. And what's kind of funny too is he actually has people that monitor news about him. So he did that whole interview on the Czech NHL website, basically to dispel those rumors about the knee surgery. And he added that, yeah, I had knee surgery over a decade ago. So I just thought that was kind of funny. Gudas is such a character. I love that dude. And this story, I think you remember this one, Eddie. He's met my wife at DucksNPucks, and he knows that, like, hey, he's like my wife, like he's the favorite player of my wife on the Ducks, right? So I was talking to him about that, and he just laughed. And I go, what's so funny? He goes, oh, it's not good. I go, what do you mean it's not good? He goes, oh, I hate that. I go, like, you hate what? And he's like, oh, I hate when I'm another man's wife's favorite. And I just started busting up laughing. And I was like, oh my God, dude, this is the funniest thing right now. I'm like, he is so funny. Like, Gudas is such a character to talk to. He's such a cool dude and down to earth. But yeah, I think he is going to have some more oomph in his step this year for sure. He looks ready to go in preseason. He said he's ready to go. I do look at that. The injuries did hurt him, last season. He talked about that a little bit, and whatnot. Not to go into too much detail, but yeah, Gudas, personality-wise, Gudas is freaking hilarious. That guy is just one funny dude. I love talking to that guy. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Lacombe, MVP, he could break out and be the guy for sure for the team. So, there's some good stuff. A lot of good stuff with this team. A lot of directions that they can go in. And I guess, looking at overall, like kind of what we think, looking at the Pacific, what do you think? I still think that Edmonton and Vegas are going to be up there for the Pacific. You've had the Kings in the mix, but then they always run into Edmonton and choke in the playoffs. I like to remind my Kings friends of that, but then my Kings friends also are like, well, you guys haven't been in the playoffs. I'm like, yeah, I know, but losing in the first round, like for a couple years in a row, I don't know what's worse. But, outside of Edmonton and Vegas being in the top two, I think it's going to be a race for, that third spot and then potentially a wild card. You can have one or two wild cards. I think it's going to be a race in the Pacific, Eddie. I think, yeah, the Kings will be in there. I know we talked about the Ducks maybe not making the playoffs, but I think they'll be up there in the mix. And Calgary and Vancouver probably still up there. Sharks, Seattle, I don't really know, but that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at Vegas, Edmonton as 1 or 2, and then a log jam after that in the Pacific, Eddie.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think Vegas will take it. I want to say they have the better goaltending, but who knows? When you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, it's just kind of nuts. Connor McDavid's on his contract year, and for some reason, players just like to step it up on their contract years. And McDavid's going to get paid. He's going to get whatever he wants plus the firstborn if he wants. So
right?
It's like, man, he's going to get paid. And well-deserved. He's a hell of a player. But, yeah, I want to say that for the Pacific. I think the Ducks have a chance of leapfrogging a few of these teams. And I really think they're not going to finish 6th in the Pacific this upcoming season. There's no way that they're going to. If it happens, it happens. So be it. They're still getting used to the system. We can't really hold them to fault. But, yeah, I think they can easily, kind of looking at last season's standings, they can easily leapfrog Vancouver and Calgary, especially if I'm predicting them to have either from 92 to 95 points. Vancouver had 90, Calgary had 96 last season, Edmonton had 101. So it's going to be a big jump to try to get to that 100-point mark, but I think they're capable of doing it, and I could see them at least at minimum finishing 4th in the Pacific.
What do you think as far as the Central now? Your other team that you like, Colorado's in there. Obviously, they made the playoffs and came up short. You had Winnipeg taking it. And you had 5 teams last year, right? You had Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, Minnesota, St. Louis that all made it. Utah, Nashville, and Chicago on the outside. Nashville was the biggest disappointment, getting Marcia Show and Stamkos and still not really doing much. I look for them to improve and do better, but and I also look for St. Louis to probably do better as well. I think that St. Louis and Nashville will be a little bit higher up there. I still see Winnipeg being up there. Dallas, Colorado, Minnesota, it's kind of a toss-up to me. What do you think? You follow Colorado more. You think Colorado can be a top 3 team in the Central, or what are you thinking in that division?
They could, but as much as I love them, I think there's factors against them. I'm not sold on this Brock Nelson guy on their team. For some reason, I don't know. I don't really like him on the team. That's just my personal preference, though. I think they'll finish 3rd in the Central. I really think that Dallas is going to take the Central and win that division. I don't know. They just have the goaltending. They have the defense. They have the firepower. Even losing 2 of their main players, including Heiskanen, their top defenseman in the playoffs, and they still did a pretty hell of a job. I think they have the capability of taking the Central, and I wouldn't count them out. You mentioned Nashville, Mike, and that was kind of good because I think Nashville had just kind of an off season. I don't think their team is dropping down to a retool or rebuild or anything like that. I think they have enough firepower. I think they have a great defensive structure, and I think their goaltending's top notch. I think they're going to be up there. I think they're going to be 1, 2, or 3 in the Central Division. So I'm not counting out Nashville at all.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more wide open in the Central, like you said. I'm really curious to see how that's all going to shake out. Part of that too is we already mentioned it. The Kaprizov with his crazy ass deal coming in with his 17 million AAV. A couple other league news and things like that we can dive into that have gone on recently with some even former Ducks players too. We talk about Central Division. You saw Fowler got a 3-year extension at 6.1 million AAV. Stolars too. Got a 4-year deal with Toronto at 3.75. You had Ramir getting a PTO. You had Robbie Fabry getting a PTO with Pittsburgh, my other team, which Pittsburgh is, to me, still a mess. We won't really talk about the East, but I see Pittsburgh. I don't know. They've had some issues recently. Brett Leeson was on Minnesota, but then released. Not sure where he's going to end up. I was disappointed. I really thought the Ducks would bring him back. I like Brett Leeson's game with Anaheim. I know he's a bottom 6, 4th line type guy, but I thought, that he'd serve well for the Ducks, but I mean, he's not going to be in there, obviously. I hopefully he gets picked up by somebody, but a lot of things out there going on with these teams. You got that Kopitar news too, that he's retiring. So a lot of stuff going on around the league. Any of these other little things you want to talk about? I mean, we know that McDavid's going to get paid because he's a UFA coming up, but any of this other league news that you kind of want to touch on as we wind down the show?
James Reimer was interesting too because I know the Ducks picked him up off waivers from Buffalo. He played a couple games with the Ducks. They put him back on entry waivers, or they put him back on waivers, and then Buffalo reclaimed him. So that was just kind of his Ducks career summed up in one sentence. It's just 2 games, but it's good that he's still getting those PTOs for those players. I was kind of surprised that Brett Leeson got released, especially Minnesota can use kind of more grit in their bottom 6 lineup. So that was kind of surprising to me. Kopitar, that's just, I know they're the Kings, but I'm a hockey fan first. Congratulations to a great career. It's been a battle watching him play throughout the years, lining up with Getzlaf. It was just a hell of a battle watching him play with the Kings, and the utmost respect for a player like that. And if anyone deserves a statue in front of a Crypto Arena, I think Kopitar definitely deserves one, and much power to him for that. And congratulations to all the Kings fans that got to watch him play, and great scouting from him. He was kind of an unknown and just kind of got scouted by the right person, and look what the career that he had. So I wish him nothing but the best this season, except when he plays the Ducks, and except when he plays the Avalanche. And I hope whatever he does after hockey, he just fulfills whatever desire he wants and has a great kind of after hockey career.
The other story I liked too was Marc-Andre Fleury. You saw that he came back and did the preseason play with Pittsburgh, and I thought that was awesome for him to come back and do that, because we talked about Corey Perry coming back and doing something similar with the Ducks, which obviously he didn't. Corey Perry went to the Kings, which, by the way, Corey Perry got hurt and had surgery. If you didn't see that, he's out for a while. Unfortunate news for him. But I did like the Marc-Andre Fleury story. I do have a Vegas Knights jersey that is a Marc-Andre Fleury one that I got. I love that dude. So I'm glad that he got to come back with the team, and even for the preseason, just kind of do his thing and bounce. That was a feel-good story there that I like to see. The other one of this that affects the East greatly is the Florida Panthers. Eddie Barkov is going to be out for a while. So I'm really, really curious to see how the Florida Panthers are going to do without their main man this season.
Well, they have Barkov gone for pretty much the entire season. They have Matthew Tkachuk gone, too. That's two of their top players. So it's curious to see what they're going to do to kind of fill that role. With the new cap situation, or I'm sorry, with the new injury reserved, they can't use his whole salary to replace him. I guess there's a cap on that now, since they're going to be changing it up, so teams won't kind of utilize that thing come playoff time when someone's injured. So I believe, if I was reading correctly, they can only get just under $4 million to use since he's injured, and that's if they put him on long-term injured reserve. So that's going to be interesting how they fill that role. I know they have Lindell that could possibly play up and kind of, but you can't fill those skates. He's a hell of a player. He's always that two-way player that you need to kind of produce some offense, kind of make the players around him better, and be that defensive person too to help out on the D. But that's a big unfortunate thing for Florida. And Mike, the whole thing too, there's been a lot of injuries this season. I know Zuccarello's out for 6 to 8 weeks. You had Jamie Benn with that collapsed lung. It's been quite a few injuries for the preseason, so it's kind of sad to see. It sucks that we have to see that, but I wish each and every one of them nothing but a speedy recovery, and hopefully they can get back to the ice soon.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at Tkachuk, they're talking about him being out till December. And then, yeah, you're right, Barkov, it's pretty much the whole season. So that's going to be rough for Florida trying to get a third Stanley Cup. I know you and I are going to go to that outdoor game in Miami in January. I'm still looking forward to that. It's going to be a great time. I've never been to Miami, so I'm really looking forward to going, just like when I went to Boston, Fenway Park, a couple years ago when it was the Bruins and the Penguins, and I loved it. So I'm still excited for that. Maybe Tkachuk will make it to that game because it's the beginning of January. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, speedy recovery to all of them. There's been a lot of injuries there. Been a lot of injuries in the NFL too. My fantasy football team really took a dump. I had Lamar Jackson who got hurt. I had Connor who's out for the rest of the season, and I have Lamb who's trashed and got hurt too. So my football fantasy team sucks. Not really doing too well. I'm getting smoked. But that leads us to our fantasy leagues this year. We ended up having 2, and you guys went bonkers on this. We've done 1 the last couple seasons. Eddie's the one running all that and setting it up, and we decided to do 2 this year. And I mean, you guys filled it up. I mean, we have 2 leagues with 20 people in each league, and I mean, I'm still getting messages today about people that didn't get in the league. I'm like, damn, Eddie, we could almost maybe have 3 leagues in the future. I mean, this is crazy. You guys are going nuts over this, and I love it. Got 2 leagues ready to go. One is a completely, well, they're both free, but one is one that will have prizes, and then I'll kind of let Eddie explain about the second league and kind of dive into that. But a lot of you are really hyped up for this, and I'm really glad. I'm looking forward to fantasy hockey this season.
Oh yeah, definitely. So on the first one's our normal standard one, and like you mentioned before, it's going to be pretty much giveaways. The first place person's going to get a jersey of their choice. It doesn't have to be the Ducks, but they can get a jersey of their choice. Second place is going to get a signed Ducks merch. And then third place will get some other Ducks goodies and DucksNPucks merch. Now for the paid one, I wanted everyone to pay $8, but I was going to have everyone donate to OC Animal Care. But the whole logistics of it and the season coming in fast and with my work schedule, I decided just to cover it myself. So I paid for everyone's league fee, so I'll be making that donation to OC Animal Care as part of that league fee for everyone. So everyone who did sign up will get that cash prize. I believe it's going to be, the winner will get $160 And then the second place will get double their money. If they would have donated, would have been what, $30-something. And then third place, and I'm sorry, like $16. Third place will get their money back. But yeah, and any of the top 3 spots guarantee you a spot for next season too. I apologize that I wish I had more time to get a third one going to get the people that didn't get in. But you know what? There's always next season to improve. I'm improving on this fantasy thing each and every year. So thank you to everyone that signed up, and I really appreciate you guys joining. And let's have some good time. And hopefully on the prize fantasy hockey, you guys can knock off the champ, because I'm 2 years in a row champ. So the champ is here, and he's not gonna fear.
I know. That's why I'm looking forward, because like I was telling you, my fantasy football league took a dump, man. I was like looking at all these injuries I got there happening there too. Only 4 weeks of NFL action, and I lost 3 of my top players. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm out there. I don't really have much to cheer for. I mean, other than my Rams. My Rams are doing pretty good. The Eagles got lucky, blocked that field goal at the end. Eagle fans that are listening, you guys got lucky. The Rams should have beat you. But otherwise, the Rams have been doing great this season, so I'm still going to be following them. But fantasy football, my team is toast. So I'm looking forward to these 2 leagues. Yeah, and a bunch of you that tried to jump in, you didn't get in there. It didn't work out. We had a lot of demand, so we may have to do 3 next season. But I appreciate the support and the enthusiasm on there. And as we go forward in the season, don't forget you can look at our Linktree links that I have up on our profiles on social media. We also have a Discord channel that you can jump in there and join in there. Had a couple people jump in there. We're kind of making some more Ducks chats. We can go in there and talk about hockey, keeping it all positive and everything. We may be critical about the players, but you can jump in there and talk about the teams and whatnot. Also, I forgot to mention too, we're also, we're part of the Hockey Podcast Network again this year, which we're very thankful for. We mentioned DraftKings earlier in the show. We're also part of Old City Sports Network. All the discounts for their companies are in the description box below. Most of the codes are OCSN, so check out all of those in there. So we're very happy about that as well. And we're just going to keep rolling. This is kind of our preview of the season show. We'll kind of see what happens as the Ducks get the roster down. Maybe we'll do another one. I am curious to see what happens with Seneca. He's still on there. I think he's got work to go, but he's one that I want to watch and see if he ends up doing the whole 9-10 game thing or whatnot. But we may do another show before the season starts, or we may just kick it off once it gets going. We'll see how it goes. But we are also going to have on our guest too that Eddie mentioned as well. So lots of good stuff this coming season. Appreciate your guys' support. I'll throw it back to you, Eddie, for any final thoughts as we close this out.
I just want to give a shout out to Halo Duck. Fan question asked how we were. We discussed how we were in the beginning of the show, so hope you're doing well. Thank you for the question. Another one too I wanted to throw out there was Joe Gonzalez. Asked if we're going to cruise around any local breweries for opening day. My schedule won't allow me to. For the Ducks home opener, I'll be in Buffalo, New York. So I won't be able to do that. So, but I think, Mike, we talked about it. Hopefully we can work the logistics out of recording live at a brewery or a restaurant and maybe invite some fans over and do something fun like that. Get more engagement, especially too. I didn't know, and good shout out to all the Ducks players, but they knew who DucksNPucks was. They knew who you were, Mike, and some of them even said they listened to the show. So that's kind of kudos there that we can get that kind of influence. So we're looking forward to doing more fan-driven things and kind of blossoming out this season with this page and seeing what more we can do. Like I said, bringing on special guests and making it more fun. And the fantasy hockey is going to be even great. So thank you, everyone, for continuing to listen. And I'm just looking forward to having a great season with all of you guys.
Absolutely. And finally, don't forget to check out patreon.com. DucksNPucks there. We're giving away stuff there. Gave away all our preseason game tickets. Gave those all away to people. And we'll have more stuff that will be given away on there as well. I'm working on new hats. I do have a newer design logo that I did talk about in the last show that I will reveal a little bit in the future at some point. I'm not sure when, but we are working on some more hats that we're going to come out and put out. We have all our other shirts and stuff on there. You can go to tpnhockey.com. Check those out. There's plenty of stuff on there. A lot of stuff on sale too as well that we're pushing out on there. But again, we appreciate the support. We'll check out this season. We got more stuff coming. We're going to have a lot of fun. And as always, let's go Ducks.